And welcome back to Dark Earth Customs, everybody. Today we're just going to get right into it. This is going to be the final video for the Mitsubishi. And as you guys just saw there, the wiggling of the camera and the 100,000 mile an hour winds that you're hearing behind you, welcome to Minnesota in the fall. Now, I'm wearing something actually quite a bit heavier than I normally would wear, but I got my other light jacket dirty. It is actually, I think, for those of you that live in Florida and California, you would probably be wearing your winter parkas here because it's a whopping 65 degrees. Just kidding. But anyway, it is fall in Minnesota. It's windy. It's crazy windy as usual. And it's starting to get down there. We've had nighttime temperatures in the 30s, probably even lower than that. There goes the wind again. Kind of wobbling back and forth. Maybe if I wobble and the camera wobbles, the image will actually stay steady. But all we have to do here is finish up on this wreck, this wonderful car, so I can put it up for sale, and we'll get on to the next thing. There are a few odds and ends that I need to tie up on my car and truck before it snows, so that will happen sometime here. And then got to start on the Thunderbird. Actually going to be starting on the Thunderbird's motor first, because there's no point in getting that even close to drivable if that isn't running. So enough of listening to me talk. Well, what am I saying? You're going to listen to me talk to darkness. We need to get on to this though. So the first thing we're doing is we're going to go under the car and we're going to fix the exhaust. I got the section of flex pipe that I need, so I can cut out the old one and put in a new one and clamp it down. But let me show you how I'm going to do that first. Now, many of you would understand this as a sawzall or a reciprocating saw, but it wasn't until recently that I was able to get what I didn't really know existed, battery adapters. This is a Porter cable. This is a battery adapter for a Craftsman. And this is one of my Craftsman batteries. And that allows me to basically have universal use of all my tools by using that adapter. So what we need to do now, get under the car, cut both ends of the pipe so it comes out, put the new pipe up, and that's done. Got to put the cowl on, the wipers on. I'm going to show you the spoiler because that's already done. The wheels are on. I have a brake line leaking. I'm going to show you the brake line work that I did. What's leaking is, I don't know. I came out one day and there was a puddle of brake fluid under the back wheel. So yeah, we got a handful of things to tie up, including the blower motor and whatever else, but we need to get this here done. Let's get started. Alright, there we are, everybody. Here we are at the rotten piece of flex pipe. Got holes all the way down. The banding is broken. And it Well, it all just needs to be cut away. There is the new one. So I cut the old one out. And I'm just going to clamp the new one in. I don't feel like welding it is too much of a hassle on a car I'm selling. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, backside is cut off. Now, I'm going to try to catch it right there, because this outer ring is broken off, so that'll give me extra pipe under it. So, let's see how I'm going to do that with that ding dang dung thing in the way. Looks like the transmission and engine cradle right there, because we definitely can't cut through that. Looks like I'm gonna have to cut from the other side, guys. Got some better room over here. Now, although you may not be able to see me, I don't think you saw me before either. And flex pipe was actually an invention for front wheel drive cars, because on a rear wheel drive car you don't need flex pipe. The engine, when you give a vehicle gas, the engine will actually twist one way while you're throttling it, and then back the other way when you're not. And when you have a engine and transmission and axle all in a straight line, that transfer of back and forth movement is only taken up by the engine mounts. But on a front wheel drive car is going in this direction, but the engine is perpendicular, crossways. So to take up that flex of the engine when it moves, they had to come up with a piece of exhaust pipe that actually flexes with that movement. Otherwise, if this wasn't front wheel drive, I wouldn't be doing this, because I wouldn't need to, because I wouldn't have it. Oh boy. And that is the one downside to battery powered reciprocating saw. They drain batteries fast. So if you don't have a big battery, expect to change them. I didn't even have this saw because I use an electric one usually, but I had to buy one because I go out to junkyards and get parts, and I needed a saw to do it. So this is where I'm at. Now I changed the battery. Let's get this darn thing finished so I can get the new pipe installed. That stopping of the saw is the saw actually saying my battery's almost dead, my battery's almost dead. Go figure, it's hanging on by just a thread. Guys, you always got to be careful when you're cutting metal like this, because this metal, these sharp edges will cut your fingers or hands or whatever wide open if you're not careful. Take everything slow and easy. If you need to do what I'm doing, for example, make sure you're cautious of every move you're making so you don't cut yourself and end up in the hospital. Now, I couldn't buy the exact piece I wanted because it wasn't made. I much rather needed a 16-inch, but I thought if I was able to cut the pipe with enough length on it that I might be able to get away with it. So once I get this last piece out of here, maybe I'll just leave that there for now so I can actually just look. All these batteries have to be recharged. Oh boy, yeah. Well, I mean, the fitting's right, but sure isn't leaving a whole lot of pipe. So what do I got? About 2 inches in the back there. And if I'm able to get this front section moved all the way forward where it needs to be, looks like I maybe an inch back there. Oh, that's not the best, guys. I might need a coupler, but I don't know. I don't know if that would work or not. Okay. So I don't think I'm gonna get a clamp on this front section here. I'm trying to figure out. I might actually have to weld this. But since there should be little to no back pressure, I'm gonna start the car and I'm gonna see how well this works. Alright, you guys still watching? Okay. Well, it works. But the question I have is this back pipe. But back section here is got quite the quite the gap around it, couple millimeters. So I wonder if this is 2.5 ID, which is inner diameter. I wonder if this is, what would that be, 2.5 OD maybe? No, because that would fit then. So this might be a, thought it was 2.5, guys. Well, let me get a marker because I need to see just how close to the end this pipe actually is. Alright, Sharpie time. Alright, so the inside of that Sharpie shows me how much pipe I got left. Well, yeah, I was about right. It's just about over an inch, maybe an inch, inch and a quarter. Well, that can be handled a couple ways. Obviously, I'm going to have to try to weld this. I don't even know how that is going to happen, everybody. I seriously don't. There is no good way to make a solid weld all the way around this pipe. There just isn't. I might just have to notch both ends a little bit and then just use a regular clamp to pinch down on those ends to close it up, because there's really no good other way to do it. So take and just make a mark all the way down around, and yeah, and on this one here it would have to be this section just split in half. Just make a line right in the center there, and then make notches so I can use a clamp to compress that, because it can't be welded. I'm not cutting it again, it's too close to the cat, and I can't use an adapter, so I have to notch it. And I think that's what's going to happen over here too, because welding that is just not a good idea. And trying to cut the weld on here off is an even worse idea. So I think that's the next step, is to take and make notches on both ends and then compress it with clamps, which I will have to buy the clamps on Saturday, but that doesn't mean we can not keep working on everything. Alright, so here we are at the back of the car. Like I said, the spoiler's already been installed. Now, this car had an option for one, but didn't come with one. So this spoiler I got from a junkyard, cleaned it up, painted it up, and inside the trunk I made cutouts. I used a hole saw. I gotta touch these up still with some touch-up paint so it doesn't rust. And I drilled through there so I could get bolts through. Come on, focus. So I get bolts through the trunk deck lid that goes into the spoiler. And I did that for both sides. Now, as for the light, I also have a hole right about there, and it feeds down a wire, goes down and follows the trunk springs all the way up into the rear brake light that's inside the car. So yes, this does work. When I hit the brakes, that brake light does work. So that spoiler's done. I know I kind of skimped out on recording that. It was a pain in the butt trying to get all the bolts to go in, and I got a little rubber insulator down in here between the body and the spoiler. So that's done. Now let's go ahead and get up front and get to the wipers and the cowl. Okay, so this is the cowl that goes down into the, this takes air in, goes down into the heater box inside the car and makes it warm. The cowl piece, the cowl cover, goes over the cowl and gets screwed down. Actually, I think it had plastic clips, but I have since lost those plastic clips, so I had to buy some screws, and I'm going to screw it down. So let's go ahead and get that taken care of. Then the wipers can go on, and that part is done. Now the cowl itself has clips on it to lock onto the windshield so it stays in place. There we go. Now let's go ahead and get the screws in. Now you're probably thinking, screws, well, that's going to be kind of tacky, isn't it? Well, no, because I got black screws. Those two match up perfectly. Hopefully these will tighten down nice. And make sure everything's in place before I tighten all the screws down. Okay. There we go. The cowl is installed, and now we just need to put on the wipers. And here we are at the wipers. Now the wipers can be a little bit, well, fidgety, and you can see that, well, definitely need some new wiper blades. But first we gotta get them on the car. And because they're spring loaded, it's under tension, and I gotta try to get that tension out of it so I can get the cap down where it needs to go. Now it is, I don't know if you guys can see in there or not. You might be able to. That there's slots, there's little grooves all the way around the inside of there to match the grooves that are on here. And you gotta try to line it up to what you think looks good, so where it's not sitting necessarily on the cowl like that, but it's usually at the bottom of the windshield, something like that. But you can see it's still at an angle here, so I could never get it on. So this is where the little finicky part comes in. Sometimes if you when you're lining up your wipers, gotta try to get it down in the general area where you think it's supposed to go. And then put the nut on. And then go ahead and tighten it down slowly to make sure you're on the splines. Now that looks pretty good to me. It's resting right at the bottom of the windshield. And let's go ahead and try the other one. This one is going to be not fun to do because it's in a very, very bad position. It's in the center where I can't get to it. Okay. So now we do the same thing again. Is try to line them up where we think it's supposed to be lined up at. Go ahead and tighten the nut down. Just like that. Now they're on. Now I'm going to go ahead and check the driver's side one again because I didn't remember that threading going down that far on that one. Ooh, almost dropped it, guys. That would have been a problem. Well, yeah, it looks like it's down all the way. So, yeah, that's down all the way. Nice and snug as a bug in a rug. And let's go ahead and test these wipers out. Well, that looks just about right, folks. You can see that the wipers are doing their wiper job. Even the sprayer still works. I mean, it's aiming at the bottom of the windshield right now because the hood's open, but it's working. There we go. Alright, wipers and cowl are done. And there's that. Okay, and here we are under the hood. Now, what I'm trying to do and why the light is so awful is the problem actually goes down, down, down. Do you see that head of that bolt right in the middle of the screen? Right dead center of the screen, there's a bolt sticking out of the side of the block. Well, that is where the ground strap is for the battery. Now, about 7 years ago, this car was out in Virginia when I cooked the brakes, and it stopped starting, and I realized that it had a ground problem. And instead of trying to clean it up, which I should have just done, I actually made a ground wire right here off the front of the block. There's a little bit more light on the subject. Alright, so the cable here that grounds out in the front of the block below the valve cover goes around back of the engine, comes all the way around and connects to the battery. Well, that's because that bolt and that cable are either bad or just dirty as hell. So now we're going to try to take that out. This should be quite interesting. Definitely need to get this light out of here before it melts the flesh off my hand. I wish I had a better place for this light, but I don't. Alright, so I think I'm just going to use the light on the camera. I know it might be kind of darkish. Maybe I can get my other light out. Let me try. Kind of better. But what we need to do is we need to see about getting this bolt out of here. You know how they say there's a tool for every job? Well, right now, I wish I had a ratcheting 12mm wrench, because this is hard to get to. So I'm gonna set you guys aside for a minute. I'm gonna get this out and then we'll take a look. All right. So I got it out. You can see the bolt is gone down there. And the cable's right here. Now, I expected this to be a lot more corroded or dirty, but it's really not. It is definitely oily, which would cause poor conductivity. So I'm just gonna clean it up the best I can, and then put it back together and see if that fixes the problem. So give me a minute and I'll show you what it's like after. Alright, now you guys can kind of see down there. that is cleaner. I wiped as much of the grease off as I could and tightened the bolt back down. Everything's good to go. So let's flip the ground strap and see what happens. Okay, everybody, so I have the original ground strap on. This is the wrong battery, which is why it looks so tight. It's supposed to be over here, not in the center of the battery. But anyway, this is for test anyway. So the original ground is hooked up. Everything's hooked up. Let's see. Would you look at that? Just dirty connections. I don't know how I missed that, but you know, I guess sometimes you do. So let's go ahead. I'm going to shut this off. And yeah, it's loud because it doesn't have the section of flex pipe in there anymore. But it'll quiet down once I get that put back in. So, ground is done. Everything's tightening up here. I got to figure out what to do about the battery here. Definitely the wrong battery. And I don't want it pulling on that ground so much. I suppose if I absolutely had to, I could put a side post down here. I do have a spare side post I could put on there that would allow me to connect this to that. This, like I said, this isn't the right battery, and I would really much rather keep this battery because I like it and it works in my golf cart. So I'll have to figure that out, I guess. But for now, that's taken care of. And let's look at what the next step is. Actually, let's try to figure out what the next step is. Well, how's about we go and put the blower motor in? That sounds like fun. Okay, here we are. We are down under the elusive dash. And I did find 1, 2, 3 screws. Those are all for the blower motor right there, so I don't need to put different screws in it. And I can put those screws in it. Now, blower motor goes right up there. Stick my hand in here and yeah, that's all good. So from here, you're sitting in the seat and you're looking outside. You have to go down under the glove box, down under the glove box. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Bam! Right there. This should be interesting. Very interesting. Alright, so we take the blower motor and we try to figure out which hole it goes, which way it goes, because it is directional. And it looks, well, let's see here, because the cord goes just like that right there. That means that the plug cannot be that far away from it. Oh, I can't see, guys. I cannot see a darn thing what I'm doing. Guys, do I have it, guys? I mean, is it where it's supposed to be? Hold on, I'm gonna have to see if I'm where I'm supposed to be. I don't have 3 arms. Okay, I finally got it where it's supposed to be. And it is supposed to be just like that. Now I got one screw already up. In there. Kind of hard to see, but there you go. That one's down and tight. Now we need to tighten the other one that's in here somewhere. Come on, where is it? There, oh, there it is. I'm actually using the camera to find out where I'm supposed to go. And yeah, I know I'm not grabbing a screwdriver right. That's how I can grab it in this angle. Okay. That leaves one screw. And I'm betting you guys want to know where that goes. Well, it goes in the very back behind the blower motor. And I know that because that's where car makers love to put them. And that this is a triangle. So there's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So let me go ahead and try to figure that one out, because that one is not going to happen on camera. And we'll go from there. Okay guys, so first I got dirt on the carpet. Not happy, not happy. It all has to be vacuumed anyway, but I'm not happy because I'm not sure if that's going to come out. And I already cleaned this dang car. Second, I'm going to show you a little trick here. So, I don't have magnetic Torx for this, a T20 magnetic to hold this screw in place. And so, what you do is you take a little piece of paper towel, or Kleenex or something, and you just squish it in between the star point on the screw and between the head of the driver. So now it can't come out. So now I can reach up in there and get the screw in place. You guys see that hole in the very, very way back there? Yeah, that's it. Alright, hold on guys. And there it is. I actually had to use looks like there still might be some paper towel in there. Well, that's for the next guy to deal with, I guess. Because I couldn't get that screw up there without that paper towel being squished in between. So, now we go ahead and try to do things left-handed again. There's that. There's that. So the blower motor's kicked on. Let's check. Oh, no power. Whoa. Did I unhook the battery? Yep, I did. Alright, battery's back on. Let's try this again. Key on. Blower motor works. Coming up the dash. Coming out the defrost. That's more than my Charger does. Oh, oh, oh. Whoa, guys. What's that about? Oh, positive. Positive was not connected. See if the air still works. Feels like it's working. Yeah. Okay. Oh, stinky exhaust when it's not connected and it's not set up properly yet. Alright, well, blower motor's in, cowl's in, wipers are on, ground strap is fixed, ground is working, so now I can take my ground off. That's just that's just the bolt right up here. Grab a wrench for that. And here we are again. Alright. This is an exhaust manifold bolt. And the car has not ran long enough for this to be hot yet, so just take and unhook the cable there and then hook this back up. And we have the actual ground from the car itself. There we go. Well, that's done. And grab that cable off the top of the engine here. There's a long cable. That's all that they had, though. It was out in town and nobody had any good cables except for a long one. So that's what I had to buy. Alright, let's move on to that back brake. There we be. Okay, everybody, here we are at the back wheel. This is the one that's leaking. So all that's left is this brake and to bleed them. I'm not sure why this one's leaking. I guess we're going to find out. That leaves putting the exhaust back on. That'll be soon. And then I have an O2 sensor to put in. So basically those three things and it's done. Now, am I going to put brakes, actual brake pads and rotors in it? I'm not sure yet. It needs tabs, it needs front rotors and pads for sure, but it needs the exhaust, the O2 sensor, and this wheel to stop leaking. Aside from that, I do have a Mitsubishi windshield decal that never got put on that I'm going to put on it because I'm not going to have another one of these again. So got the windshield decal, just really not much, thankfully. It's almost over with. Okay. Let's get this off of here and out of the way. Oh. Oh yeah, she's leaking. She's a leaker. Gonna have to bring you guys in for a close-up. All right, you can see that it is leaking. That is a very good question. Why it's leaking? I am not sure why. Because it's tight. It can't go any tighter. So there's got to be something wrong with the flare that would be doing this. And I know I can hear you guys through the video right now using a vice grips on your brake line. Yeah, I am. I'm trying to find out what's causing the leak. And I don't really care if I'm using a vice grips. So what do you think about that? I would imagine since the master cylinder is dry, it's pretty much leaked out everything it's gonna up to this point. Oh no, there's still more to come. I'll tell you. Oh, I hate touching brake fluid. See if I get any gloves off here. That's a big no, Ghost Rider. Brake fluid is what is that word? Hydroscopic or some weird scientific term where brake fluid will mix with water, and because of that it also mixes with your skin very well. And I don't like having it on my skin because I don't like absorbing brake fluid into my body. So when you're working with brakes and brake fluid, you should be wearing gloves if at all possible, or using something like I am to try to unscrew the fitting. Because the less you get on you, the better. Of course, all fluids are going to be highly toxic on vehicles anyways, but I wish that would stop dripping out so I can take a look. I'm not seeing any issues. La 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 la. Light, I need a light. Okay, well, I know I'm about to get my big fat head in front of the camera, but I gotta look. Okay, there is no damage to the threads. There is no damage to the cone. It should be sealing just fine. Okay. Well, how's about you? Oh, thanks for dripping on my light. That's what I always wanted, was brake fluid on my light that I use all the time. I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't seem too far off. I've seen worse. I know these have to be darn near just perfect for them to work right, but I've seen way worse that worked right. I'm talking about the flares. And of course I really don't have a way to show you what the flare looks like because I can't really bend the line up to show you. But yeah, I mean, it looks good. I wonder if there was just a piece of dirt or something that got in there somehow. Because I'm not feeling any issues. Well, I guess what we're just going to try to do is we're going to try to lock this down again. And see what happens. And another reason I'm using vice grips is because I don't have metric line wrenches. And these fittings are so old and nasty that a standard wrench is not going to cut it. Now, you see when I try to turn it, it's turning the line with it. And that's why I went and I pushed the line back further. Because it's going to push that line out. And I don't need the line to pop all the way out and break. Because it decides to twist. Well, if that ain't good enough, I don't know what it is. So we're gonna dry her up here. And actually, I don't know if there is going to be enough fluid in the reservoir to show if this is going to leak anymore yet. Well, I just put some brake fluid in. So let's press the pedal and see if any leaks out. Well, I don't see any new leaks. Do you guys? I think might have just gotten lucky on this one. I think maybe it was just a loose line. Of course, I don't have any. I don't know if I have any cleaner to spray that away to check. Well, guys, I found two things. First, gloves. Second, an extra little tiny bit. This parts cleaner is crap. Sorry. It is a not very good product. It doesn't really do its job very well. Have to get some more parts cleaner this weekend. Well, it's dry. Let's press on the brake pedal some more. Start the car so I can get some pressure in the system. Still dry. Yep, it's still dry. So that means it was a loose fitting. That means there's no issue with this brake here. Fortunately, I think for now I'm probably going to get away with not having to bleed it because it was under a continuous drip. Now, should I bleed it? Yeah. Am I going to get this bleeder screw out of here? Not a chance on your life. That bleeder screw is rusted solid, and I guarantee that that is not coming out. And I don't have a torch to heat it, and so I'm not going to do anything with it. Now, there is brake fluid in the rubber line that goes down to the caliper. So there's the caliper right here. there's the rubber line that goes to the caliper, and there's the metal line. So, because the caliper line was never removed, nothing came out of the caliper, nothing came out of the rubber line, and it was drip gravity bleeding all the way down to the fitting, as you just saw. So if there is any air in there, it is minuscule at best. So for now, this is done. Now, when I take it out on the road, and if the brakes don't react well, then sure, we'll look into the brakes further. But at this point in time, I think it's a non-factor. And I will make that determine as a non-factor once I get it out on the road. So that's done. That means all that is left is the exhaust. Alright, so that's all done. And what we have left is to put notches in here so when I clamp down on it, it'll bend together. I'm going to notch both ends. We have a windshield decal. It's a little rolled up and a little crinkly. I guess we'll have to take a look at it. Probably still in good shape though. You know, decals add what, 20 horsepower, right? So there's that. There is the O2 sensor. And right, so alright, I gotta put the wheel on the car. Brakes are done. Gotta find the EGR valve, or EGR, I don't know why I keep thinking EGR, it's O2. Now that O2 sensor, boy, it is in a place that I don't want to get to. It is actually right above that section of pipe I cut out. If you go forward a couple inches and straight up, that's where it is. Nice tight spot. So I got the O2 sensor, I got the exhaust and the decal, and I think it's done, aside from, you know, some brakes and rotors and tabs, but that can be done at any time, whether by me or by the owner, new owner. So yeah, let's get on that. Alright everybody, so I got my cutoff wheel. I have my flex pipe. And I've made markings on top and bottom, or end to end, where I'm going to cut notches. And then we're going to go ahead and get this installed. So let's go ahead and get that started. Alright, so we have started getting notches cut. They're not all exactly the same, might be off just a hair, but you know what? They're cut, so it can compress now. So let's go ahead and get the other side done here. And there's the short side. So when I put the clamps down on this, it'll squeeze this together tighter and clamp down around the existing pipe. Now the same for this side. I do wonder, however, if I have enough space to clamp down tight. I'm wondering if I should try to open those up just a hair. That's a little bit better. Well, let's go ahead and get under the car and see about getting this put up. Oh, and I do have new front brakes coming for it. The rears are in need of replacement at some point, but they are not as bad as the front. So we're going to start by replacing the fronts. Exhaust, O2 sensor, front brakes, and it's out of here. Okay everybody, here we go. Got a set of clamp up here on the pipe on that end, one on the other end. Yeah, the back end has to go on first. Oh, it would appear that the burrs are keeping that from going on, so I guess I got to get the burrs off first. So I will be right back. Okay, well, now if it doesn't fit, it's got to be the magical irritation fairies, because I have completely flush ground everything on the inside using the Dremel that I used on my charger. So now it is exactly identical to how it was when I test fit it. Okay, sorry about that everybody. It looks like the camera decided to drop out there for a minute. Well, let's see if that fixes it or if they need to be adjusted. All right, here we go. Well, it's a little bit louder than I would like, but I think that's probably coming from, I know I replaced this one, but there's a tiny little coupler right there. That might be leaking too, but I'm not fixing that one. I'm done fixing the exhaust on this car. It's barely got an exhaust leak. So we're gonna adjust this back one here and call it good. There we go. I think that's good. Start it one more time, and that should be it. Okay, everyone, so that is the exhaust done. The small exhaust leak I'm not fixing. I'm not even sure where it is, but the big exhaust leak is done. So next we're going to do the brakes and the O2 sensor, and I think that's it. The brakes are going to be here later in the week, so I'll have to wait until then. Okay, everybody, here we are at the brakes. Driver's side's the worst, and I will show you once I get the rotor off that the rotor is actually broken in half. So we're going to go ahead and get this off. Got to take the caliper off, brake pads. I got brand new rotors and pads from Detroit Axle, a company that I regular for my parts because they generally have 10-year or lifetime warranties on pretty much everything they sell. And everything I've gotten from them has been quality items. So let's go ahead and get started taking this rotor off. And hopefully it'll only be the 2 caliper bolts on the backside here. I imagine getting this rotor off is going to be pretty rough though. So we'll see how rusted it is. And as usual, or unusual, this car is a millimeter smaller than standard. Most cars are 10s and 13s and 15s. This one is 12s and 14s. Don't know why. What? I didn't unthread this. This was loose. This is the caliper bolt. I can hardly believe that the shaking up front actually loosened the caliper bolt. Oh my God, this other one's loose too. I'm unthreading it with my hand. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, this is a two-piece. So we got the caliper here, which is dusty dirty. It's just dirty. It's no big deal. Take my press and press the piston back in. Brake pads, honestly, they're worn, but they probably got another few thousand miles left in them. This one, outside one's a lot thinner, so maybe about 1,000 miles. But the problem is actually the rotor. The cooling fins on the inside are broken. This rotor, I will not be surprised one bit if it comes off in two pieces. Okay. Now, the bigger problem is these bolts that hold the caliper bracket on. Are those going to come out? Ooh. And that does not appear to be coming out. So it's time to escalate. Escalation, step 1. Big hammer, impact kit. If step 1 does not work, we increase to step 2. Step 2 requires a much bigger impact. Well, that one's coming out. Let's get my socket back. And we'll go down to the bottom one. Oh. Whew. Well, that's good, because that means I won't have to go over to my neighbor's house and borrow his impact gun. I haven't bought a new half-inch impact gun yet, but he's got one. And it's actually the one I used on my truck last winter. Caliper bracket off. Now, there's metal shims in here, and if you buy quality parts, your new brakes will come with those shims, as mine did. So I should be able to just replace those. Now, here's the pickle we find ourselves in. This is not going to come off easy. I also don't want the caliper hanging by its hose. As I've talked about in earlier episodes, you can severely damage your braking system by letting your caliper hang by its hose. So you got to hang your caliper, preferably from your coil spring, and then you can basically go hog wild on your rotor. So I need to find something to hang. Here's a nice piece of copper brake line that I'm not using. So we'll make this into a nice S-hook brake hanger. Alright, out of the way, no stress on the brake line. Now it's time, escalation step 1. Hammer. I imagine it will come to escalation step 2. And here is escalation step 2. Oh, well. Huh. Okay. Well, that is not supposed to happen. So, I can't pound on the studs. Ooh, yeah. Well, well, well. Well, I'm going to have to figure this one out. We're just going to go right to escalation step 4. I'm going to skip past 3 completely. We're going to try to cut it off, or cut it loose. What I'm trying to do here is relieve some tension, and if anything, get some holes cut into this so I can get some lubricant behind it. Well, it looks like what I'm going to have to do is try to get some lubricant in here to help loosen this up, let it sit for a bit, move on to another issue, and come back to this in a little bit. But I will try the other side to see if that rotor comes off. I'm not going to bore you with all this stuff here, but if I get that rotor loose, we'll move over to that side, complete that, and then come back to this once this is able to come off. Okay guys, so I've been fighting with this for a half an hour off camera. What I have apparently solved the problem with, I had to use my Sawzall, cut off the brake ring itself, multiple pieces. As you can see, it's completely rotted in the cooling fins. Nothing holding the front from the back. And then I had to use my grinder and cut notches around this to alleviate the tension. And it looks like that by hammering on here, I'm going to finally get this to come off. I mean, here alone is part of the inner ring that just jumped. And there we go. What a giant pain in the rear end that was. So, now that this is done, I finally get to put the brakes on. Of course, this all needs to be cleaned first. I need to get some of this rust off here, so we're going to take a wire wheel, clean it up, put the new brakes on, and done. Okay guys, so here we are getting ready to put the rotors on and then get the brake pads on, and then that'll be that. I'm going to spare you the other side. I'll take care of that off camera, but I wanted to show you brakes on this car. Well, I kind of think you might be enjoying this one. But anyways, I know as soon as you see what I bought, you're going to say, why would you spend that kind of money on that piece of junk? Well, first, it's not a piece of junk. It runs good. And second, why did I buy drilled and slotted rotors for this car with brake pads? Because from Detroit Axle, it is cheaper to buy drilled and slotted brakes than it is to go to your auto parts store and buy regular brakes. I got these, both discs, drilled and slotted, plus brake pads, delivered for free for 90 bucks. I'm not seeing this anywhere for less than $250 from a normal supplier. And that's why I like Detroit Axle. Now, as you can also see, I have put it on backwards. Well, that is because I need to spray some brake cleaner on here to make sure there's no oils, and then I'll flip it around, spray it on that side, and then I'll go ahead and put the brakes on. So let's get that. Let me go grab that can. Alright, so I got my CRC and my brake compression tool. Now, I bought some other stuff. I don't know if you guys saw it in this video or another one. You get what you pay for. I was not satisfied at all for a can of brake clean from a different company that costs half as much as this and did almost nothing. CRC is the only company in my book. I tried to cheapen out and I got what I paid for. A can of nothing. Now you may say, well, $5 for a can of brake clean, that's not a lot. Well, it is when you use a lot of it, and especially from a repair shop point of view, they use tons of it. And they probably go through 20 cans a day. So if you add all that up, it starts getting expensive over a while. So I thought, oh, they got it for $2.50. I'll try that. Yeah, not the same. Anyways, now that I am done rambling as usual, I take my can of brake clean. I make sure there's nothing down here that's going to start a fire. Highly flammable. And I'm done. That's it. All you need to do is just give it a good rinse. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip her around. And I'm going to take one lug nut and hopefully this will go all the way down. A lot of people have problems lining up their brakes. Alright, almost there. Main reason that is because brake rotors are wobbly. And if your brake rotor isn't tight, well, you're going to end up with a hard to put on part. So now that that's done, I'm going to take and just give it another good spray. Woo! It backfired right in my face. Good thing my eyes are closed. And it had safety light. Well, I had glasses on. Just imagine they're a little bit bigger. Okay. I don't need to dry brake clean because brake clean evaporates. But now it is time to put my brake caliper mounting bracket on here. Now on the other side, I do have a problem with one of these. Now make sure when you're doing your brakes, these are your brake pin slides. These absolutely must be able to move. Move in and out and move around. Move in and out and move around. Now, generally I would pull this out, put some new grease on it, but these, they still seem pretty good. Now the other side, however, one is good and one is frozen. If these freeze in place, your brakes will stop becoming as effective and will wear unevenly. So, still moves around pretty good. I'm just going to leave it. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to find all the bolts. And we're going to start with these right here. Okay. Slight hiccup. It's being a bugger. The tin shield behind is not being friendly, so I'm just going to take the rotor off, set it aside, make sure it doesn't get dirty, and then I can put, oh wait, no, I can't do it that way because the rotor sits in here, but I can pull the rotor off slightly so I can get everything to line up. Okay, finally, there we are. The brake pad bracket and caliper mount is secured. Gotta get these clips out. Got new ones up here. And got some, looks like probably a little bit of anti-squeal. And some new pads. And that is that. Now, you're always going to want to look to check for your brake pads. Usually do this beforehand. I should have done this, didn't think about it. You want to make sure your brake pads, sometimes there's an inside and sometimes there's an outside, and sometimes they match. And in this case they match, so it does not matter which one goes where. We're going to pull out two of the new shims. Now, this also has some other things in it here, some little clippy doodads. Now, being a Mitsubishi, this is also a Chrysler product. So, this covers Mitsubishi, Chrysler Sebrings, and a whole bunch of other cars. So you might get miscellaneous parts that you don't have on your car. Don't worry, they don't go to your car, just use what comes with it. And it looks like the shims are going to be exactly the same. You might be asking, why do they use shims? Why don't they just make the things the right size? Well, the problem is they did make things the right size. But after years of watching, these channels would get rusted up and the brakes would just seize in there. So they made these little shims that go in place. And it's a lot easier for the brake pads to ride in these tracks here instead of getting frozen up steel to steel like that. So that's what these are used for. Take the brake pads, put one end in one end of the shim and the other in the other end, and call it a day. Okay, what seems to be the issue here? Very tight. I don't like that. Alright. And this is absolutely nothing against Detroit Axle. This is against brake makers in general. These little ears here on each side, those ride in those shim tracks. And when the maker paints too thick there, they don't go in right. So that means I get to take my grinder and grind off some of this paint so it'll actually go in and work right. And again, that's not Detroit Axle, not just Detroit Axle. That is every single brake maker on earth. They all do it. Alright, so now, see, I had to take just a tiny bit of paint off the edge here. And I did it on both ears, on both pads. And I'm going to have to do it for the other side too. Now, this will fit in. Now it fits in. It's so ridiculous The things just, they're too tight. I can't see. I'm trying to do this blind. Even a couple thousandths of an inch will affect proper brake functionality. Alright, so the brake pads are in. Now let's go ahead and get the caliper here. Now as you can see, the caliper piston is all the way out. I'm not sure if this is going to fit or not. If not, I'll have to use my other one. Oh, yep, it does. So what I'm doing here is I'm using a little extendable jack that's going to compress this down here. Now, my brake fluid reservoir is full. So what's going to happen now is I'm going to loosen the cap slightly, but the brake fluid is going to get pressed back through, and more than likely it'll probably overflow the reservoir because it is full now and it's got to be compressed up. Yep, I hear brake fluid dripping. Now we take our freshly compressed caliper here. You can see that the piston's all the way down in the groove now. We're going to set this back up here just temporarily. This is copper grease that comes with the brakes, or at least it should come with good brakes. And you're going to apply a little dab of it on each side here. That'll help reduce squeaks. There we go. Now, time to put the caliper on. And we need the bolts that were loose for whatever reason. I have a hard time believing they just walked out, but that's the only thing I can come up with. Alright, and the last thing is I'm going to go ahead and thread this brake cap back down here just for now. And a lot of people will say you don't have to do this till the end, but I do it both times, or every time it breaks, I should say. What you're doing here by pressing the brake pedal is you're activating your brakes. If you replace your brakes and you don't pump your brakes up before you put it in gear, you're going to find out that you don't have brakes. because brake pressure needs to be reapplied. Brake pressure needs to be reapplied before your car can stop, and by pumping your brake pressure back up, that's what you're doing. Now it's nice and snug. Now I'm just gonna shoot a little bit on that connection back in there because I needed it cleaned before, and the brake cleaner before didn't do a good job. Okay, we are officially done with this side. Go ahead and put the wheel back on. And I am going to jump over to the passenger side. Again, there's no reason to really show you that. You'll see the car when I pull it out of the barn. The reason being is because the passenger side is just like the driver's side. And the passenger side isn't coming off either. So I'm going to have to cut that rotor off and go from there. So it'll be just like this. Let's go ahead and get the rotor on, or the wheel on, and then we'll come back once the brakes are done. We also got to get under the car and attempt to do the O2 sensor. I know which one's bad, or I should say I know which one coded bad, and I bought it already a while ago. So aside from the brakes, the O2 sensor, and basically putting the Mitsubishi decal on the windshield and washing the car, it's done. So sooner the better I can get this car out of the barn, sooner I can sell it, or try to. I haven't had much luck selling things where I live. And sometimes that's just the side effect of living out in the middle of nowhere. Okay, now I can take this lug nut back off. Now let's get the wheel on. And the rear brakes are even cheaper. I think they're $70. So, you know, you gotta shop around. And if you find a good supplier, well, that's who you try to stick with. There we go. Yeah, you can hear the brakes on the other side grinding now, huh? This one's good. Alright, let me go ahead and finish that up. Then we're going to go ahead and get under the car, attempt to get that O2 sensor out, and then get the car down and done. But first, I have to cut off yet another rotor. Okay everyone, here we are under the Mitsubishi, under the engine and transmission.
And it's kind of oily. It looks like I have a valve cover leak under here. Well, a valve cover leak that's dripping down to the bottom. But anyway, oil pan, greasy, messy, CV axle, exhaust. There's the exhaust pipe that I just replaced, and if we follow it to the split, and then it curves around here, and then this pipe goes up behind the engine. And if you look right there, let me try to get this darn thing to focus again. Right up there, you can see the O2 sensor. Well, that particular O2 sensor is all but impossible to loosen with this cross member here. So this cross member that I am literally laying under right now, that supports this whole left side of the car, is in the way of getting that O2 sensor out. That being said, there will be no O2 sensor being removed from this car. The new one will go with it, but I am not removing it. I don't have the time, I don't have the means, I don't have the lift to be able to get under there properly and try to remove that. So, that being said, this procedure is short and not done. So, that is pretty much that. So, let's go ahead and get this car out. It needs to be washed and cleaned and put up for sale. And we will go ahead and take a look at it once it's clean. Okay, everybody. Here we are. The car is done. Sitting outside. It's been washed, although it doesn't really look like it because I live on a dirt road and the dust just goes absolutely everywhere. Car is running. Has a slight exhaust leak. It is better with that piece of flex pipe, but there is still a slight exhaust leak. Look how smooth that engine is. It just sits there idling. Still needs the O2 sensor. Could use valve cover gaskets. Couple odds and ends. Nothing major. Good running car. Good looking car. The check engine light is because of the O2 sensor. No big deal. Heat is on. Good heat. Considering we are finally in the beginnings of winter. But it's looking good. Brakes look nice up front. Wheels look good. Everything looks good. Like I said, needs a little few extras here and there. Needs some wipers. But this is now up for sale on Marketplace for $2,500. I'll be lucky to sell it, honestly, because things never really work out when I exactly need them to. But you never know. And if it doesn't sell, it's just going to become another driver for me, which will probably happen. Never been really good at selling cars. Been good at buying them, but never really good at getting rid of them. Don't know why. Alright, so I guess that's it for this adventure, and we're gonna go on to the next. So remember to like and subscribe, post a comment, turn on notifications. I hope you enjoyed this video. I kind of enjoyed making it. This car has been kind of fighting me the whole way, but it's done now, and we're gonna jump on to the next one. So again, like, subscribe, comment, notifications, and I will see all you guys in the next video.